Hey, so are you really done with people triggering you into reactive emotions that you sit back and say, shoot, I wish I could stop responding that way? Have you come to the realizations that it's not about what they're doing, but how you respond that makes you feel shitty? And then you keep going at it, trying to get a different result? Have you put together it's because you want them to change so you can feel better about your reactions, or them to admit they're shitty so that it makes you feel better about the way you responded? Well, then this video is for you. So I think it's time for the evolution of this planet to understand that our triggers are our greatest gifts, because what is triggering us is showing us what we have in a reactive unconscious pattern that keeps us relating in toxic ways, and it keeps toxicity alive on our lovely earth. So they're a gift, because if that is what's keeping us in toxic relating, because let's just keep it real, there's some people that are all the way on this end of the scale of toxic, and there's some that are here, and we're all, no matter how toxic we are, there's a seed within us that we want to be healthy. We want to have more harmony in our lives. We want to have more peace. We want to experience a better planet. You know, so even the people that are way dark asleep, there's still something in them that wants that. But then the people that are working on it, they really want it. So our triggers are a gift, because our reactionary triggers, our emotions that get charged, they're incredibly low on the emotional scale, are causing us to go into unconscious patterns. And until we make the unconscious conscious and we choose differently and respond healthy, this earth will not ascend. And that's just another way of saying it won't get healthy. It won't find peace. There's nothing external that we can fix. We've been doing the same things, guys. Literally. I took a class on healing addiction to become a better coach, and I realized they're teaching me the same thing that doesn't work, and then they justify it. It was pretty mind-boggling to me. It's the same reactionary patterns of how we treat addiction. And to me, get woo, get spiritual. Talk about alchemy. Talk about neutralizing your reactionary patterns. Do it. And if not them, then me, then you. You're going to get what we're talking about right here, because we all have that moment that we were like, oh man, I wish I wouldn't have reacted that way. Key. Because what it's doing is the emotion is a charge that's stored in us that we have had since childhood, and we are reacting in the same way. And think about what I said, childhood. So it's an immature emotional reaction that we formed in childhood. And just like breathing and walking, we do it unconsciously, and it's still there. And if it gets triggered, our central nervous system does the same thing. So how do we stop it? And that's why it's a gift. Because the first thing we do is just realize what I'm saying and say yes. Then once you say yes, I get it, I do, I react crappy to when somebody does this, and I always respond this way. And then in reflection, I'm like, dude, can't you just chill out? You know? Or so I want you to think of it this way. If our reactionary patterns are causing us to or act out in a certain way, that is us exuding that energy from within us onto the planet. And so, you know, how much is every soul exuding into the atmosphere, the ethereal, is how collectively healthy or toxic we are. So we all play a role. And if we all, you know, slow our roll, get in our own lane and fix our own stuff, you model it to others. But not only that, then you're putting out the energy into the ethereal around you, which is helping instigate it. It's all energy. There's not much to do but own our own stuff and shift our energy, and people around us will shift, just like, you know, one flame ignites everything. So let's get off the woo-woo train for a second here and just get back to what I mean. And that is, If we have said the yes that I said, I get it, I have reactionary patterns, I can't stop myself, you have to understand that the longer we repeat reactionary patterns and we don't neutralize, alchemize them, the more momentum they get, the harder it is to stop. But I'm only saying that now because it's impossible when you're older, because I'm way past midlife. It is just the same course of action. You've done it, it gets more momentum, harder and harder. But then when you decide to stop, you neutralize, it reduces, but it's still there. And every time you neutralize, alchemize it, it gets less and less until the pattern's gone. And then you can respond from a choice that you make as a mature adult, not as an emotionally mature child that formed this unconscious way. So, I've tried a million ways to neutralize my emotional reactions so I didn't look like a crazy woman in traffic with my kids, with government officials that really irk my nerves. And the number one way that I have found is to stop. All right, just reminding me of that stop, drop, and roll. So stop, wait for the emotions to drop, and then roll with it. Instead of trigger, blah, action, and then you pay the consequences. We're going to trigger, wait until the emotions drop without doing anything or saying anything, and then roll with a healthy new way. Over and over again until the healthy way is what's automatically triggered. And so I want to go back to how our outer triggers are a gift, because this is the biggest piece of this. Do not keep antagonizing yourself with the big triggers. Your emotional body holds a lot. It's never been neutralized. So if you're in an older age bracket like me in your 50s, you will say, I have a lot in here, and you do. So start with the smaller ones so you can kind of unpack some of that emotional body stuff, like traffic. That's where I started. Traffic and waiting in lines at stores, or having what I called incompetent customer service. I worked on those, and those were hard, really hard, because not only they're a personal pattern, but they're a collective pattern, which is a whole another story. But either way, just work on your individual patterns and stop blaming others for your reactions. Yeah. So we got that first part where we're like, yes, I see it. I see exactly what you're talking about. I get it. And then the second part would be stop blaming others for what's going on in here. And you're really going to get it when you aren't responding. We all know those people. There's good and bad to both patterns of just shutting down. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about, it's not about whether you jab out or you shut down. Both of them are unhealthy. What it's about is feeling that energy charge inside of you and neutralizing it. Whether you close down or you jab out, the energy charge is there. I know, because and it's always like this. My energy teacher taught me the people that jab out when they're emotionally charged, she called them a lion for concepts. And the people that shut down, she called them an ego for a concept. And so lions tend to judge eagles and get triggered by eagles, and eagles tend to judge and get triggered by lions. And so both of them are just on the opposite polarities of energy, that push and pull. And so I want to bring that example up, because if you're around a lot of eagles, it can be really hard if you're a lion, because they trigger you even more because they don't respond. And you think that they're just, a lot of times lions think eagles are narcissists. So try to recognize that in yourself. But, and most of the time we attract our opposite polarity, because the universe is all about balance. And so they're our greatest triggers. So I just want to put that tidbit in there, because the goal here is to not entangle with an ego right out the gate. Entangle in the small ways. Trust me, I'm willing to bet most of your close relationships are the opposite polarity. If you're an eagle, most of them are lions, and vice versa. And then the people, like if you have a large family that are egos and you're an ego, you'll gravitate towards, and the lions will be together because that's just, and then the goal is to try to balance the two polarities, and this is how you do it. Stop being a liar or ego when you're triggered. Just sit with it first until the emotional charge passes over and over again, and then roll with healthy communication when you're not triggered. This is all conceptual, so it can be hard, but once you do it a few times, you're like, wow, this is the key. Why didn't I try this long ago? And I'm going to tell you why. Remember, it's very hard. It's the hardest work you will ever do, and that's why your soul wants you to do it, and your ego's like, hell no. So step one is, yes, you see it, you get it. You don't have to know how to fix it. Just get it, see it, self-awareness. Be aware. Be aware of the pattern. Be aware of the pattern. Be aware of the pattern. Even as you're doing the pattern. That helped me cause separation in myself from my ego to my soul. When my ego was doing the stupid stuff and my soul was watching. Because that's all we want. We want self-awareness. It's not so much about what we're doing out here for now. It's about getting that self-awareness, because then once you realize and recognize that stillness, that soul inside you watching yourself unfold in a crazy toxic reactive way from an emotional charge, then you can say, okay, there it is. So step one is that, yes, I get it, I see it. Step two is to practice and start neutralizing so that you can break down the momentum. Yeah, break down that momentum of those reactionary patterns. And then step three is learning to communicate and roll with it. So let's use a real life story. I recognized in traffic that somebody was cutting me off and acting erratic, and I was getting extremely heated inside. Like, they were driving pretty bad. It was erratic. It was dangerous. And I had kids in the car. And so I could feel my ego having all the reasons why I should ram this car off the road and go all the ways up. Just whatever that is in my reactionary patterns. And so then I sat with that for a moment, and the way that I chose in my mind to get myself to not freak out and make this situation not exist and go within is reminding myself of earlier this week when my kids were fighting in the back seat, and I kind of swerved a little bit and the car next to me beeped. And I was like, sorry. And they were like, it's okay. How freaking awesome. Why can't I be like that ego? No, I'm just kidding. But what it brought me awareness to is we all screw up. Why are we holding each other so freaking accountable? Why are we so angry at everybody? Why do we not have compassion for the situations? Because we're all going through shit. So I talked myself out of reacting, and it was hard. But the minute I shifted that, and then I was focused back in present, and I was rolling with it again, rolling with life, back in present, just rolling. As I went down the road, the guy, I looked over at the stoplight, and he was there, and he was like, I'm so sorry. And I was like, it's okay. Just like the first person that I remembered had extended grace to me. But that whole thing happened that way because I neutralized it, because that could have happened. But if I was still triggered and I pulled up to that stop sign, I would have cussed dude out, and I would have triggered him, and he would have cussed me out. And then that's why the world is so jacked up. So the goal is to move up the emotional scale, but our reactionary patterns with our beliefs and our concepts and our culture and our collective consciousness has got us in these really reactionary, against each other patterns. And that's fine if you want to stay there and you feel validated in that, like the world's crazy and I'm perfect, then you really aren't going to that step one of, yes, I see it. And that's okay. I don't care. Live your life. I know what's going to be attracted to me when I clean all of my energy up, which I've done, is a lot of people that are also doing the same. And I think there will be splits, and I think there already is splits. Because I've been to areas of the country that are incredibly peaceful and kind, and then I've been to ones that are incredibly ghetto and toxic. So I think it's always like that. I think you're going to resonate with certain people, and you're going to find your tribe. So, but my point here is that once you start doing this internal alchemy and you start neutralizing all your patterns, the roll with it part is very important. because we can't, because I think a lot of awakening people say it's so lonely and it's so, I can't form healthy connections and this and that. It's because we want to close up to the world because the work is hard. And so I implore you to start saying, okay, God, just show me, or universe, or higher self, whatever you call that. How do I roll with it? Bring me into situations where I can create new patterns. And you want to find those people that are like the dude and the lady that were like, it's okay. That find compassion. And you find that when you move up the scale. Our reactionary patterns keep us down low in that guilt, shame. I got to make you feel guilty and ashamed for what you did. Anger, grief. You should feel bad. I have kids in the car. You freaking asshole. So we're just sharing, remember that blah into, we're just sharing those energies. And so as we move up, we're going to become more compassionate to other people, and then they're compassionate back. And so we want to roll with it when we get into those higher places, because then we'll see the beauty outside of us externally. It starts with what I always say, what Kool-Aid you drinking today? Are you drinking compassion? Because then everybody at the table with you in the world basically will be drinking that Kool-Aid as well. So I hope that makes sense. I like that. Step 1, yes, I see it. Step 2 is neutralizing it. Drop into yourself and then roll into new, higher emotional energies, and then watch the world bring it right so back. I hope that makes sense. So let's start this. When we're emotionally triggered, stop, drop, roll. And only roll when you've gotten that escalated feeling back down to nothing. And then roll with something new, a new responsive pattern. And if you got to use your mind like I did in my example to de-escalate yourself inside, great, but don't project it out onto people, because then you'll get the same back, period. All right, so I hope that helps and you understand how the external triggers can help you neutralize your internal world and your reactionary patterns that kind of sabotage your life in a lot of ways, not just energetically, but our interpersonal relationships. And then we can get onto these new healthy responsive patterns. So use your triggers, y'all. Do you like this? Please share with a friend, like, subscribe. See you next time.